wanted to take a moment to share with you a few of the additional roles that go into the work of Bible translation in Papua New Guinea. So initially we start with the village showing an interest in having the Bible in their own language. From there, we have a team that is allocated, and then language learning begins in the village. That training continues either in the village or also potentially at the training center in Ukurampa. And also these people are coming to Ukurampa and Papua New Guinea, usually having received training elsewhere in Canada or in the States. Then the actual translation work happens over the course of many years or even decades. And eventually there's a completed New Testament. And of course, one of the things that we love about Wycliffe is that there's also an emphasis on follow-up, on discipleship, and further translation, usually into the Old Testament if the language group is desiring that, and helping people use the Bible for their daily life. Now, when we think about Bible translation, those might be the only steps we think about, but there are many things happening beyond that and other roles that go into this whole process. For example, when the village shows interest, there needs to be a team that has gone out to the village to actually find out what the interest level is. So we have survey teams that do that. Those survey teams sometimes are going to be traveling by vehicle. They need an Autoshop to make sure that there are cars that can actually make the journey. Sometimes those teams are going by aviation and they need a helicopter or a pilot. They need mechanics and pilots and mechanical engineers and everyone who will make sure that they can have a safe trip. Once that team is actually allocated, then we need a village team. We need a family, a couple, a single, a few singles, people who are willing to actually work with that language group towards the end goal of getting the Bible in their own language. We also need a medical clinic that is willing to provide the medications that family or couple or individuals need, and medications that they will need to take to the village or be treated when they're back in Ukurampa. We also need support teams. Support teams are people who will come alongside the village team, help them with dehydrating food or sending supplies out to them in the middle or halfway point of their village trip because they cannot access things when they're out in the bush, all sorts of different things, or just be an encouragement to that team. When there's language learning happening, there are also support roles needed with the language learning and the continued training. We need places like the Canadian Institute of Linguistics or GAIL, which is in the States. We need those places to help train the linguists before they can actually be sent. We need a training center in Ukurampa. The training center has many roles and serves many purposes, but one of the purposes is to allow Papua New Guinean co-translators to come and receive training and also be able to come and do large amounts of work without other interruptions. The training center also needs to provide food because people are coming and staying there in dormitories. And so we need a store. We need a store that will help gather the supplies needed to make meals for the people staying at the training center. And we need Papua New Guinean co-translators who are passionate about having the Bible in their own heart language, to actually take time out of their lives to commit a portion of their life and work to this larger work of Bible translation. And the translation work continues because of all of these different roles working together. And when we get to the point where there's a completed New Testament or perhaps an audio Bible, we need places like our shipping department to help either receive printed New Testaments from other countries where they might be printed, or perhaps we just need our print shop, which is very often being used to print different materials for the village, for different workshops and different training, and anything on a smaller scale that could be done right in Ukurampa. And for follow-up discipleship and further translation, There are many other roles we could talk about, but ultimately that is the larger picture of what Bible translation looks like, complete with so many other individuals represented in those green bubbles and purple and pink. Those are all people who are required to be on the field in Ukurampa, in Papua New Guinea, on the other side of the world from their passport countries, and they're required to be a part of the team so that we can get to that end goal of the Bible in a language that people understand in villages where they have wanted and asked for this to be given to them. And truly, that is the greatest gift that we could offer, is to be a part of this process with the Papua New Guineans that we work with, because this is ultimately their country. These are their languages, and we want to work together, and we want to learn together, and we want to learn from them so that we can make sure that this Bible that they are receiving is useful, that speaks to them, and is understandable. And then we watch and we see God transform our lives in the process, their lives in the process, and the lives of so many others who go on to read and listen to his life-changing words. So this is the work of Bible translation in Papua New Guinea.